Hi, I'm Sarah Wilder, and this is part 13 of Surviving the Man I Married. In part 12, we heard about my wearing wigs, how I got divorced and remarried within 3 weeks, and the first half of a February 2020 psychic reading with Peter. In this episode, I'll share the rest of that reading, plus a short lesson on how to cut cords. So the reading left off where my higher self had told me that my brain chemistry had been altered by the living with Jim for so long, and plus my own reaction to the situation by going into denial, a comfort zone, and uh, holding on to false hope, just so I wouldn't have to change my life. That my irrational brain had taken over, that I had anger issues, and that I was experiencing mental illness. So it got very heavy, and I was feeling very sad and very vulnerable. So that's where the reading is going to pick up. With the same efficiency that my higher self had listed what things got me into that dark place of misery, she proceeded to do the same for how to connect with and cultivate my authentic self. So she says, first, I need to get out of bed earlier and learn to enjoy the mornings. I need to do something relaxing and enjoyable, like having a cup of coffee or tea outside on my front porch. Next, I need to disallow the negative thoughts of what things I don't deserve to enjoy or experience. She called that mental space junk generated by the ego, and to not let it influence me. She attributed my tendency to go down that road to male negative trauma. That's a big club, male negative trauma. My response to that has instilled in me a belief that I'm not worthy to enjoy myself. My higher self offered the reminder that I'm in control of my own life, not to allow myself to have a master, as I currently did in Jim. The third thing she mentioned is a familiar one, going for a walk. Um, this version added the health benefits attached to the physical activity, which in turn would enable me to live longer and therefore spend more time with my grandkids, emphasizing it's also for their benefit. She cautioned me not to allow negative self talk to prohibit me from doing this. At this point, my higher self went on a bit of a tangent, speaking about the human ego. She outlined that we humans have what's called an ego dialogue, an internal narrative that's born of our lived experiences, trauma, everything accumulated throughout our earthbound life. She clarified that the human ego is not part of our spiritual selves, nor is it part of our authentic self. Furthermore, in order to avoid being influenced by the ego, I'm to practice shutting it down, changing the channel. In doing so, she says, I'll feel younger, lighter, happier, and more fulfilled. As with strong emotions, I'm accused of allowing my experiences to become me, instead of filing them under the less influential label, stuff that happened to me. We are not our experiences, she emphasized, as previously had been said about my emotions. So, in a tangent to a tangent, my higher self then moved on to what informs our conscious thoughts. She explained that external experiences influence our conscious thoughts, and sometimes these conscious thoughts manifest in emotional purges, a form of projecting. She recognized that Jim projects onto me his anger, trauma, and sadness accumulated through his life experiences. She then instructed me to respond to the verbal abuses with positive mental affirmations, to repeat to myself, this isn't me, about me, or for me, then send it away. This isn't me, about me, or for me. In order to put an end to the emotional abuse, I'm warned not to allow external negative things to become a part of me. And I'm admonished to remember that the experiences of others aren't mine, and to resist all attempts by Jim and others to purge them onto me. She confirmed that sometimes I can sense this kind of negative energy from others, though mainly from Jim. At those times, I should tell my brain that I need a break, to step away and to clear my head, gain control of my feelings, and stay true to myself. Emphatically, she told me to repel the negativity. I also like the word rebuke, and use the metaphor of carrying other people's rocks for me to stop doing it. Landing back on message, connecting with and cultivating my authentic self, my higher self concluded our session with the fourth of her suggestions and another metaphor. One by one, I'm to remove the rocks from my emotional backpack that other people put there. She plainly stated that in doing so will increase my joy and reduce fatigue. Every morning, I'm to start my day by doing something that makes me happy. That way, my brain builds a catalog of positive experiences from which to draw upon to motivate me the next day, and so forth. She brought us back to the beginning by saying this practice will also help me to override the toxic internal dialogue and in changing the channel. So at this point, the psychic reading came to a close, but I'll include the things Peter and I spoke about afterwards. He talked about dark entities, ones like we learned the cowboy that inhabits and dwells with Jim, and how these entities influence us, attack us, and want us to be miserable. He mentioned psychic attacks, which are when someone sends ill thoughts and intentions towards someone else. Don't do it. Stop doing it if you're doing it, because it bounces right back. And this practice, he said, harms both parties. He offered that instead of having bad, sad, and angry thoughts and feelings, that I should relax and meditate and cut the cords connecting me to the other person. He said to do that, I'll need to imagine the other person as their authentic self, then send that version of the person love and light. I know that that's a cliche, love and light. It's been beaten to death, but there is a reason behind it, and there is meaning. So on cutting the cords with someone is our next step. So to summarize just a little bit about the reading, because it took 2 parts. Spirit had explained she doesn't judge me for humiliating myself with the sham remarriage, because I was worried about what I was going to hear, or for any of the other things she described that I've done to myself. She doesn't judge me for my contributions to my own misery. Instead, she assured me that I can learn to cope with and one day heal, and offered specific instructions on how, starting with ditching Jim, of course, and utterly scraping him from my life and off my shoe, then going on lots of walks and meditating. Okay, so now we're going to go on to cutting cords. I know I sound totally unqualified to do this, but I have been able to do it myself, and it's simple. Anyone can, but it does take repetition. I'll warn you, it takes a few times to really be able to get yourself in the right headspace. With Peter. How to send love and light instead of enmity. First step, imagine the opponent as being their authentic natural self. This version exists in each of us. It's kept whole within our soul, but on our surface, in our physical body, it differs greatly from the original. Over time, it gets tarnished from exposure to life. Imperfections appear where we've suffered loss and endured great pain, until the shape we have become is mostly a betrayal of what we once wanted to be, something rudely defiant of our youthful expectations. But the Creator can always see us perfectly, so try and use that perspective when we think of the other person. How would the Creator think of that person? The second step is to remember to envision the recipient. They're now the recipient, not the opponent. Now they're the recipient as their perfect self, who they were before the world changed them and made them want to hurt other people and you. Even imagine them as a newborn baby, which is the imagery I had to use for Jim. I still use it because that's someone tiny and new and perfect, completely dependent. The third thing is concentrate on what you want that sweet little infant to know. Maybe think of some uplifting, positive thoughts or share some wisdom on how to protect themselves from what you know is coming their way in this life. In any case, whatever you conjure, it needs to come from a place of only love. The fourth step is send your positive thoughts and wishes to this other person with real intent. That's why it's easier said than done. This nuisance person, make them a little baby. There's some kind of magic about them. They're very special. In doing so, you're going to appeal to the highest level of thought that draws upon the white light only. And on that plane is where the cord between you can be cut. So for that step, you just motion in the air with your hands, your fingers, your arms, whatever, a sword, a knife, just scissors, and cut the cords and say, I cut these cords between me and say their name. We are no longer attached. You cannot send any dark energy to me. I will not waste any energy on you. And I send you love and light, and mean it, and then you're done. Sometimes it can be achieved in one meditation, but expect it to take a few times. In my case, it took quite a while. But I did notice eventually the animosity I felt gradually decreased when those feelings of anger and massive betrayal would resurge. I was able to replace those negative emotions with more positive thoughts by repeating affirmations, kind of like, I have limitless light and love. I can send some to him. Or, I release what you did to me and I give it to God. Give it to God. Jesus, take the pain. Or on a more challenging day, I'll just use the familiar, not today, Satan. It's become a core practice that's helped me endure writing the book, which took 23 months. All right, thanks for hanging in there with me. In part 14, we'll do a little after the reading stuff. And then there is another reading I'm going to share with Peter. It's from 5 months later. So it's going to be from July 2020. And it's a long reading, so it's going to cover part 14 and part 15. So thank you. If you want to know more, please remember to like, follow, and share to take my story one step closer to publication. And ladies, I invite you to step out of the darkness and into your power.